So welcome back to this second sessions. I forgot something this morning. Part of the preparations, another thing that is to create boundaries is helpful. Sometime, traditionally they actually even create a physical boundary. At four directions of the boundary, they will make some stones and then they will do the rituals, visualize like that. But even you don't put physically like that in your mind, you imagine boundary where you wouldn't go beyond that boundary outside. Sometimes in very strict retreat, they might create the room, the boundary. They wouldn't go outside of the room until they finish. Those are very, very strict where some people do that. Sometimes, of course, the boundary can be bigger, So again, it is a way of helping us not to go too far away. If we go too far away, then again, we see things, we hear things, and that can be something that disturb our minds, something that can be distractions. And so when we are trying to do practice, then again, that can create obstacles in terms of distraction and so forth, disturbance. Also, one of my teachers, Khenso Lobsang Sering, when he did a 3-year retreat, Dedi Yoga, he was one of the main teachers in Sera Jey, one of the main teachers, also. And so he expressed his wish to do 3-year retreat. And His Holiness said, you can do retreat, but you still have to teach. You cannot stop from teaching. So His Holiness says, while you continue to teach, still you can do the retreat. So that is what he did, He did 3 sessions of retreat, and during the daytime he will teach, and when he did the retreat, his boundary was up to the main, up to the city, Bangalore, which is like 6-hour drive from Sera, So in his mind, he created the boundary up to that, big boundaries, like, and we were wondering why the boundary is so big, But actually, in the middle of a retreat, he got sick, and they have to take him to the hospital to Bangalore, and then in that way, he didn't broke his boundaries because of that, and he always has that kind of advice. It's better to create bigger boundary, but you don't need to go anywhere except then where you are, unless it's necessary. But it becomes necessary, at least you don't break those boundaries. So that was his advice, his thinking. Even with the initiations, like one of the advice he gave, sometimes in the initiations, different lamas, different teachers give different commitment. Sometimes they will ask you to do the long sadhana. Some of them will short sadhana. Some of them will say no sadhanas. You can just do mantras, and within the mantras, some of them will give specific numbers. Some of them will say you decide how much you want. You make your own commitment how much you want to do. So of course different teachers. So one of the Council of Sitting advice is when you have that kind of options, go for the minimum. You know, that is his advice. You know, if you have that options in terms of commitment, you take the minimum one, but try to do the maximum. That is his advice. You know, at the moment we try to make the maximum commitment and we do minimum. You know, but his advice is the other way around. Commitment, if they ask you, you might just make one mantra a day. You know, but when you do one mala or even more. So when and I find those advice very practical and helpful. And so in terms of boundaries, that was one of the also his advice, and that is also how he, you know, of course, when he didn't need, he never went outside with Sarah, you know, except when he had to go to the hospital and in the Bangalore, you know. So anyway, with that, you know, while he's teaching, he did his 3-year retreat completed, you know, Yamataka, the Nyenchen, the big retreat, you know. So that was the boundary part was one thing that I forgot to mention. Then other things is also, it would be best if you don't have any access to internet and phones during those retreats. You know, you shut down all of that. It will be much more beneficial. You know, when you have access to internet, maybe you might want to check an email or you might want to check a message. But then once you start opening, then you started to open something else. And then, you know, it can be distractions in terms of your time. It can be distractions, then what you read in the news or whatever you see, something that can be very bothering to you, bothering. And then while you are trying to meditate, and that can come. And then, you know, you cannot stop from not thinking about that, not being disturbed. And same thing, you know, if you have that access, you call to friends, families, or someone, and then someone says, "Oh, that happened, this happened, that happened." Again, you know, unless you have very strong practice. If someone has a very strong practice and tools, then of course it might not distract them so much. But for us who doesn't have that strong practice, then what you hear, you know, or one of the members is sick, one of them have this, something happens, then again, you cannot stop not worrying about them, you know, even though there's nothing much you can do, but your mind started worrying about them. You heard because one of them was sick, one of them have this problem, that problems. And again, that kind of worry becomes then again an obstacle. And so if you shut down everything, then no, you are less distracted. Your mind will be less. That is why they recommend, you know, like very isolated places, very far away from your family and village, if possible. You know, and that is the reason. One of the reasons is, you know, and again, even and I think probably you all who have done literature, you might have some experience of that too. You know, and I also found a little bit myself that one time I was in Solukhumbu, quite far away. And then you don't worry about your families. You don't hear, don't talk. But when I went in Kathmandu, outside of the Kathmandu, because family are closer, friends are closer, you know, then one of my brother was helping with the groceries, you know, and then when you come, you know, sometimes we'll say, I will come next week, this and that. And sometimes they have things happenings and they couldn't come. Then you start waiting. or maybe something happened, maybe some accident, maybe while he was, or maybe something bad happened or something, that kind of. And so again, that is how distractions happen when you are too close, or when you don't kind of shut down that, if you when you communicate in that way. And that is where I found why in all these Lamrim, in all these advice and teachings, everywhere they talk about suitable place and where it is quite far away, distant from friends, family, everything. And that is why I kind of begin to feel, the differences that it make, um, how much differences it make for someone like me, who is still, at the very beginning, and still your mind get affected by what you hear and all of that, what you see, what you hear, Um, so therefore, shutting down the phone completely will be helpful, beneficial. As I mentioned at the very beginning, of course, it would be good to try to take care of everything so that you don't have to even call anyone or receive call anyone during that time. If you have something going on and you have not been able to complete that, then it will be more difficult. But then also your retreat will be not as good as it could be because of all this call and then all these distractions, and then not only the distraction during the call itself, but as I said, then when you try to contemplate, meditate, practice, those come in your mind, and then not being able to fully focus, not being able to fully being there with the practice and meditation. So those are the things that can be helpful, you know, and if we can do that, if we are able to do that, if we are able to do that. And then one of the advice, Kapil Lama Sabar Rinpoche give, and also many other master teachers, it would be good during the retreat if you can take 8 minor precepts. Of course, it's good if you can take every day, but especially if you can take 8 minor precepts during the retreat time, and even if you cannot take, maybe not to have the dinner if you don't need, unless for some people they might have health issues where they might need to eat a little bit frequently because of that health issue. That might be different, but otherwise, So doing the 8 minor precepts, if you are not used to that, maybe for a couple of days at the very beginning, you might feel a little bit uncomfortable because you started to feel hungry at the time, dinner time, and after normally if I snack at those times, dinner time, all of that. But then your body, everything will get more used to it, and then you don't miss or you don't feel hungry. Your body get used to it, and then it is really good. Then it is really good. One, if you don't have to eat dinner, you don't have to prepare. Preparing, eating, after eating, again cleaning, all of that take at least 1 hour total, if not more. Preparing, eating, and then cleaning after that. You save 1 hour. You have extra 1 hour to do other practice. Whether you want to have one more session or whether you want to do other practice, whatever. So that also when you don't eat night, you will have better evening sessions. Your bodies feel lighter, your mind is more clear when you feel your body is not so heavy, because it's more lighter and your mind is also more clear. That helps. Also in the early morning, it helps to get early mornings. When you go to bed with a heavy, eating a lot, then it's more harder to get uh, because your body take time to digest and your body has been busy in the night digesting all of that. And so, it helps to get early mornings and also it helps during the evening sessions to be more clear in your mind. So if you can take eight precept, that is best. Even if you don't take eight precept, then, still, if you don't have to take the dinner, then that would be good, So, um, and then also one of the advice Rinpoche always give is, in the morning, if you can do 35 Buddha practice, that would be also good. The morning session, if you can integrate the 35 Buddha practice, the prostration 35 Buddha practice, the morning sessions, especially when you integrate it part of within the 7 limb practice, the third one, confessions, during that time, if you can, uh, if you can integrate that within that, when it comes to the confession, then you do the 35 Buddha practice with the frustration. So then it can be also helpful. Of course, if you are doing, yeah. So whether you do Lama Chopa or Gandhi Lakyama or just a normal 7 limb practice, but when it comes to the third confession part, out of those 7 limb practice, then that can be the where you can do the 35 Buddha practice. So then you do the what do you call 3 or 4 sessions, and then each sessions you try to end with dedications. Each session you start to go to the motivation, and each sessions you try to end with dedications. But with each session, you don't need to do long dedications. The last session you want to do longer dedication, but still each of session you try to end with the dedications. Each session you do with both the motivation and end with dedications. But the first session you do with more extensive both the motivations. In the last session, you try to end with more extensive dedication. But every session start with that. And another advice that I got from, my teachers, the previous Gandhi Rinpoche, Lobsang Tenzin, is that he advised, every sessions to do, of course, I said Guru Yoga with his text. And I said, that was his advice. Even if you don't have so much time, at least those most, what you call, short Guru Yoga Mixema, and then to do with the glance meditation on Lamrim, whatever retreat you are doing, by using some of those short Lamrim prayers, So if you can do that, again, it's, good, like morning, if you are doing Lama Choba, then the Lamrim is already part of there, the blind meditation is there at the end of that practice. The next session you can do, for example, just to give an example, Lama Tsongkhapa's Song of the Experience, Lamrim Duden, the short Lamrim, and then that would, for example, that can be second session. Third session, you can do Lama Tsongkhapa, three principles except the path. And the fourth session, you can do, foundation of all good qualities. So then each session you do a little bit, you recite and do glance meditation on, So even when you are doing daily yoga, to do that, whether you are doing preliminary practices, any preliminary practices you are doing, any daily yoga you do, if you can start with that, it is a helpful, beneficial. If it doesn't become your session doesn't become too long, and it doesn't become stressful for you, because sometimes when you add, and then it becomes a little longer, and then if it becomes stressful, then that's something that maybe you want to make sure that it doesn't become so stressful, because you have integrated too many other practice into that, and also the other things is that because of that, then you are just it doesn't become just you are reciting and just rushing, Sometimes it can become like that because there's so much. Same in pujas, when we integrate so many things, then we just kind of rushing to finish it instead of spending a time to reflect, contemplate, and feel a little bit on each of that. And so those are the things you have to see how individually how you manage, that if you are able to manage well without being too stressful, without being too tired, then definitely to integrate all of this can be helpful and beneficial. Because for someone it might not be too long, and even 2 hours might not be too long, not too stressful, not too tiring. But for someone else, it can be too long and too tiring, too stressful. For someone, half an hour is okay. But for someone, even half hour might feel too long, too stressful, too tiring. So again, it depends individually. We all. So that is one thing I think important to understand ourselves, and then trying to set up in terms of those timing according to our, even though our teachers, our guru give certain advice, that is more like a suggestions. If you can, you add all of that, and that can be helpful. But if those become too much for you, then those are things you can manage yourself. You can be a little flexible. Nothing is rigid. Okay. Sometimes the problem with us, our teacher gives certain advice, and then we take it too rigidly, and then think there's no way we can be flexible. When the teacher give advice, they never give advice saying this is the only way you can do it. They say this is how you can do one of the possibility how you can do it. You could add this, you can add this, you can integrate this and that, but it's never kind of saying fixed and rigid, and this because different students have different ability. Some student can take on without being stressed and tired for longer duration. Some cannot. So all of that. So those are the things I think. Yeah, those are just only some of the advice suggestions. instructions that can be helpful, but again, individually, we have to see ourselves. The main things I mentioned is not to stress out yourself. Uh, Recently, well, I know I've seen so many um, let me say maybe quite a few students who have trying to retreat, long retreat, 3 months, 2 months or longer, and then who have some issues after that. You know, some of them kind of mentally break down, emotionally break down, sometimes both physically, emotionally, and those of that because they stress out themselves so much, you know, with all these expectations and trying to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect. You so much expectations, everything's, and also all this add up, and then you are trying to be so perfect, and then you want to be perfect, but the reality, we are unable to be perfect in your meditation, in your practice. And then you become harsh on yourself and you try to force yourself to be more perfect. You cannot force in that way, you know. Certain sessions, we have good sessions. Certain sessions, we might not have good sessions. That is a part of training. That is part of learning. Every session will not be perfect and good sessions. Sometimes we have good session and then you expect you want every session to be like, and then you force yourself to have that. Sometimes it doesn't happen, and still you are trying to force yourself to do that, then that can be stressful, and that can add up all this stress and of that. And so then, as I mentioned, then sometimes um, then the loom comes, and then you don't know how to handle, then it can be problematic. You know, people becoming sick. You know, recently I met someone, you know, who was doing retreat. Of course, it is in a good they did a good retreat, daily yoga, and but I think she tried to do too much, you know, and I think she stressed out, and then she couldn't complete the retreat because she was having some issues, you know. And then she started thinking, is she getting crazy, you know? And so, she wanted to kind of talk about it with me, you know, and we talk about it, discuss about it, and it's nothing to do with her being crazy. It's just that she was just stressed out. She tried to do too much, you know. It's a practice that she's not so familiar with, It's a kind of practice new, and then again, there's the deadline within 21 days. Everyone has to finish that, the deadline. You are not so familiar with that practice, and then long hours, you know. And then she was helping in the morning, setting up the water bowls, everything's. So then all this add up, and then it's not that she was getting crazy, having that sudden experience because of that it was from stress out, kind of long stress out, and that happens. I've seen quite a few people over the years, you know, um, at different places, and so that is why I always advise. take it easy, don't push yourself too much, you know, um, take how much you can take it, not overdo than what you can take it. Just because others are doing low station doesn't mean you have to do same way. Because others are adding those practice, you don't have to do that way. Depending on how much you can take in, how much you cannot take in, how much. And with a personal retreat, it's more easy because you can go your pace and you can set up your own time, how much, these sessions. It's more harder when you're doing a group retreat because you have to follow the pace of the leaders who lead the leaders. So then that will be a little bit more challenging. Whether you are able to take it or not, you are following that pace you're doing. But when you are doing individual, then you can take your own pace. And that is one thing I find very personally in Tibetan traditions. We don't have guided meditation like that you have in West. In Tibetan, our teacher will give us all the instructions, whatever, and you do yourself. So in the like now you visualize, now you meditate this, and then again now you meditate this. It's not that guided like that. First, they give you the whole instructions, and then you go and do. And then if you need more instructions, more help, you go and ask, and they support. In that way, then you can take your own pace. But when you do in a group, then it's more harder to do to take your own pace because then whoever is leading, you have to follow that pace. Even with the outlines, if you are doing a lumbering, outlines, based on that outline, of course, the main practice is not the outline, but based on that outline, that is how structures. And maybe you stay, in the first outline, second outline, you are really starting to feel it. And the and when it's a time for you to really hold on that and kind of hold that feeling and place your mind in that, the leader leads to the next step. So because you are following the next step, now you lose that, which you should have spent more time. But if you are by yourself, you can spend more time there. You don't have to rush to the next steps. You can take your time. And that is where um, I personally find individual retreats better because of that. You can spend more time where you want to spend and where you feel more related with you, more beneficial, helpful to you, you know, and so those things I think, you know, yeah. So that is the one of the things that, um, even though again I'm giving some of the suggestions based on some of the instructions that I received from different of my teachers, you know, um, which I try to integrate, you know. But again, as I mentioned, everyone is not insane. Some can do longer without more feeling too tired, stressed, and all of that. And so one individually, we all have to see um, what works for us and how much we can take in, how much we are able to take in, how much we are able to integrate, how much we are able to, which practice we can integrate. And so that is in something that individually we have to figure out. And based on that, then we try to do that. For example, as many of you are aware and who know Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Rinpoche can do 4 or 5 hours without having to go to the bathroom, without any break. He can be there 4, 5, 6 hours, whether it's teachings, whether it's pujas, whether it's meditation practice. So Rinpoche integrates so many things, Many of the pujas that we do, Rinpoche has added, integrated so many from others into that. But sometimes for us, it might be too much for us because we are not same level. Do you get it? And so if it because we are not same level, and if we have to do everything, then it becomes too stressful and all of that. Then again, that shouldn't be the case, where it leads you to become stressful and to become negative, your mind to become negative, instead of really enjoying the practice and having a few good feelings, enjoying and having sometime when it becomes stressful, your mind started to become negative. Why are we doing this practice? Because you started to become negative because you are feeling the stress, sometimes physically, sometimes mentally, sometimes both. And then you started to feel negative. You started to caution. You started to have doubt. All this comes. And if that comes, and if you don't have strong foundations to encounter that, or you don't have strong support, then sometimes you might just give up and kind of leave everything and think is useless, not important, or so and so on. So I even had a little bit of that. One time, in vodka, I was doing frustrations, and then I don't know, a little bit over the heart, I had problem with my knee, I couldn't, so much pain, I couldn't bend, I couldn't get up, for little, and I can hear the sound crop, crop, each time I go down, up. Then, different minds come, am I messing up my knee? Could it be that I mess up by doing this? Am I messing my knee where I cannot walk or I cannot? And then when that happens, then, is this important? Does I need to do that in order to practice Dharma? Can I practice? Why is this important? I could practice without this. There are many different ways of doing practice. So all these thoughts started to come, Normally, those thoughts doesn't come. But now this thought come because I was stressed with my knee, because I thought maybe I mess up, because I not pain, but that I thought maybe I mess up, maybe I might not able to walk anymore or whatever that, And so that these are some examples that when you are in stress and like that, and so I have to encounter those, with my other mind, um, from other teaching, from other practice, from other, not to, you know, um, not to give up and not to have negative thoughts and all of that, So it's just another example of how thoughts that normally you might not think such thought will arise. We might think, oh, is someone might have those thoughts or doubt or those kind of negative, but not for me until we become so stressed. And in that, then such thought that you don't think that it will arise can arise. And that is why I say, like, students who are doing Vasadava retreat, 3 month Vasasa retreat, most of those retreat, 1 or 2 students will have some challenges, and and because of again uh, like that, so that is why really, really is important to take it easy and not to push yourself too much. Of course, we have to make sure we are not being lazy, you know, and not, sometimes we say, oh, I can skip one session today and next day, or maybe I can skip, and then that lazy could take over that, then and then you might skip one session today and one session tomorrow, and then maybe after some time, maybe two sessions. Uh, so make sure that we don't get overtaken by the laziness and have excuse. Sometimes those laziness, our mind is such a complex and complicating, and sometimes our mind can kind of, you know, come with all kind of very nice way to excuse ourselves, and it's kind of basically by our laziness. But then the mind come with all very nice excuses, you know. So that's one thing we have to really check it out, whether it's actually, your body, your mind need rest, or you're just laziness is being trying to get an excuse. Those are the things we need to kind of be more mindful, more aware, and see if your body and the mind really need rest, then you have to take rest sometime, and otherwise, again, it can be obstacles. But sometimes not necessarily your body and mind need the rest, but your laziness will come with the excuse, oh, you need a rest, you can skip these sessions, and then you can start from tomorrow, and tomorrow again your mind will come with another excuse and say, oh, you can skip one sessions or 2 sessions. And sometimes those excuses can be the nice ones, you know. So that is something we have to be more mindful, more watchful, and more honest, and being more aware of our body and mind, so that we know whether our body and mind really next, or our laziness playing a game. The laziness can play a good game, you know. Mm. So those are more or less, during the actual sessions, the 4 sessions. Okay. That's the second point. The third point is post sessions. And as I was saying, when you don't eat dinner, sometimes you are amazed at how much time you have. Normally, we struggle to find a time. But when you are doing a retreat, you have 4 sessions, you do your commitment during off sessions, and you have so much time to read or do other things. Normally, we find very hard to find even 1 hour to read, or to do extra reading, or to do some other things. Um, yeah. Um, so not having the dinner in the evening, and then to have more simple breakfast in the morning where you don't require a lot of preparations. You can have more better lunch, more, but also morning, where you don't need so much preparations, where it is just mostly tea, samba, doesn't require so much time. You just, heat up the water, and then again, it's safe. It doesn't take too much time, and that allow us to have more time to do what we want to do during those retreat or during those sessions. So then there is a lot of time during the post session, and then of course, if you have, commitments, you do the commitments. Other times you do the commitments if you have other commitment practice, you do that, and then you read. What you read is Dharma, not a novel or something else, Dharma. And not only you read Dharma, you try to read Dharma that is related with your meditations, not something else. Okay? So then it supports. If you are meditating in Lamrim and you are trying to read a tantric commentary of sadhana, then it doesn't support. Or you are doing a sadhana and you read something else, even though it's Dharma, but you try to read on the subjects that is related to what you are meditating. So that is also part of preparation. When you go to retreat, then you need to have all this, what you want to read, that is more related with what you are meditating on. Different commentaries, different books, that is related with what you are trying to do retreat on, meditate on. And then it really becomes helpful, supportive. Otherwise, then even is a virtue, but it can be a distractions from your actual topic or meditations when you are reading something else. Then when you are meditating on that, maybe thought come about what you have read, which is not related with this particular topic you are meditating on, then that can be a distractions. So that is one thing, what you want to read during those, the textbook, commentary, whatever you read, you try to read that is relevant and related with the meditation that you are doing. So in that way, when you are also not only reading, while you are reading, you take time to reflect, contemplate, not just kind of like reading like stories and just, going through and finishing it. While you are reading, try to take time to reflect, contemplate, and then it also becomes part of meditation. You are in not meditation sessions, actual meditation, but at the same time, it becomes meditative. Even during the off sessions, while you are reading, it also can become meditative if you take time, not just rushing to read it, but actually trying to take time to reflect, contemplate on what you are reading. And then when in a meditation, when you meditate, then from what you read, you can find certain helpful tools, advice, instruction that you can apply while you are meditating, from what you have read, that support. So that is one thing, to read more Dharma books, but related with that, one of the things that during the post sessions, also, if you need to keep because you are sitting so much, if you are doing 4 sessions, sitting, and also when you are doing commitment, you are sitting, so you are sitting a lot, and so then again, if you feel a little bit of movement on physical, morning you do prostrations, 35 Buddha, if That will be one way. And then if you need, you can do walking, yeah, or little walking meditation, but not only just walking. You make it meditation, walking meditations. And in terms of walking meditations, of course, there are many different walking meditations. Uh, Normally the mindfulness walking meditation is to slow down your mind with very small, very slow movements and being aware each of that. But in our meditation, you can walk brisk. You can walk fast as well. You don't have to be so slow like that. But while you are walking, you can contemplate, meditate on the subject that you are meditating. While you are walking, if you are meditating, focusing on, let's say, bodhicitta or loving kindness, compassion, you contemplate while you are walking on that. You know, if you are meditating on emptiness, you try to meditate while you are walking. You walk, but at the same time, same while you are walking, you allow your mind to contemplate, meditate on emptiness, whatever subject you are doing, and then so then again, that become helpful. So always, some of the masters and teachers says, the post meditation session is even more important than meditation sessions. That is what they advise. Depending on how you spend your post meditation, it will affect how good your meditation will be. During the post meditation, if you allow your minds to be distracted and with all things, then when you try to meditate, you will, when you sit, then all these distractions start to come. But during the post meditations, you have still continued to keep your mind, uh, you know, guard your senses and your mind from so many distractions, but trying to keep same on that, subject as much as possible. Then when you actually meditate, then you are able to really go more deep, more depth, in uh, more profoundly, more depth. And so that's why post meditation, what we do in post meditation and how we do during the post meditation become very, very crucial and important. So that is in relation to that. That is what I was saying about to keep ourselves physically little moving, because of too much sitting. Um, so you need a little bit of to wake, kind of, keep your body a little bit more um, fresh and like that. Then you do walking. If there is a space to do walking without being distracted so easily. And then while you do the walking, you try to contemplate, meditate on the topic, you know. While you are walking, you can do meditation on empty. If you are doing meditation on emptiness, you can do meditation on of the path itself, the path where you are walking, the emptiness of the plants, the nature that you are walking in, you know. So you can something that is related with that at the same time, And also if you are meditating on, let's say, loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, also same, thinking of those plants, those paths, and how we are able to experience, enjoy because of, support, contributions by so many other people who made this path, you know, even though we don't know them, for hundreds of years, some of them, those who plant, who have put so much resource, and as those who continue to maintain, and those who support to maintain those roads, those paths, who support financially with their skills and their labors, So when you think of that, and then to be able to recognize, the kindness and contribution of so many others, so that we can enjoy, and so we can enjoy the walk, the hike, um, whatever we are doing. So in that way, you try to do that. Also, when we eat, drink, also trying to drink and eat mindfully, And of course, it's easy to be mindful when you're by yourself if you pay attention. Of course, if you don't pay attention, then while you are eating, you can be distracted and your mind is all over the world. You can be, while you are eating and drinking, your mind be thinking of the next meals, tomorrow's meals or all things, or you might be thinking of some part of the world, whatever. But still, when you are yourself, it's more easy to be mindful because you don't have to engage with others. When you are in other groups, then even you don't want to engage, then it becomes a little rude when someone wants to talk, and then you say, "Oh, I cannot talk. I'm silent, or I need to be mindful, or I need to eat with mindful." It is. But when you are personal retreat by yourself, then it's much easier. In the monasteries, when we are in the pujas or like that, when you are served food, nobody is allowed to talk. Um, it's supposed you should be more mindful of you know what you are. So again, of course, as I mentioned, there are many different mindfulness practices. But here, when you do that while you are eating, also you try to reflect, contemplate with the subject that you are meditating on. You know, if you are meditating on emptiness, then you can think of all the foods, interdependent of the food. How that food come, the delicious food, how it comes. Different flavor, different spices. How you cook. Temperatures, all of that. All different raw material you need. Someone who cook, someone who bring those from the market, someone who transport, someone the farmers, everything's. So by seeing the interdependence and how this food or drink is able to come into that, and so we can enjoy that, we can nurture, but it doesn't come by itself. It is able to come that because of depending on so many cause, condition, factors. And because they are dependent on so many cause, condition, factors, and others, therefore it can't be existing by itself from its own side. Therefore, it can't be existing, inherently. So just taking few moments to just reflect while you're eating. Again, you are already meditating. You are not in sessions, full close, not closing your head, but you are still meditating. So again, your mind is still not separate from the practice, the meditation itself in a way. You are still connecting that. Mm. Or you are meditating on loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, then again, same thing, like, you think how we are able to have because of the contribution and kindness of so many others that allow this food to come together and for us to enjoy, for us to nurture, for us to sustain, and all of that. Again, you are eating, you are aware of what you're doing, but at the same time, using that. And same, you can apply that same with whatever when you are preparing the food, when you are cleaning after you have done it, and same, so throughout the day, as much as possible, even during the off sessions, both sessions, you try to keep your mind, still connected with the practice, the meditation that we did during the sessions. Especially if it's not becoming stressful. Do you get it? Again, that is where if you feel stressed because you are always kind of, then again you have to rest. If you need to rest, you need to rest. But if you if you have been doing that all the time, then it will be not rest. It will not be stressful at all. But if someone is not used to that, then because you are using your mind, engaging your mind, you are, and so it requires more effort from your mind. And because it requires more effort, then it can be tiring. Do you get it? It can be tiring. And so that is, again, you have to find out so that it doesn't become too tiring. Okay? How much you need to engage your mind during the post meditations, so that it doesn't become too tiring for your mind. If it's too tiring, then you just you don't try to really reflect, contemplate so much, but you just try to, and again, in those, when you are eating, when you are walking, you don't have to engage your mind all the time. You are walking half hours or 1 hour or 45 minutes, or you don't have to keep your mind engaged all the time. You think that little bit and then you just kind of enjoy, just experience the walk, same with the food, you know. You just engage with that kind of meditation at the very beginning, and then you just kind of experience and enjoy it. And maybe at the end, maybe again, you might want to do a little bit of that meditation, which like that kind of meditation contemplation, it just takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe not even 5, 10 minutes. It's just kind of time to time connecting your mind with the meditations. That's what we have done in sessions in that way. It just requires 5 minutes of that effort, or maybe not even 5 minutes. And so it doesn't mean like for a whole 1 hour, 45 minutes of your walk or half hour, you need to continue all that. So these are all, again, something that and sleeping too, um, you don't have to sleep long. It's best. Try to get early morning. Try to go sleep little early and try to get early morning. And even though I hear some people, because of, I guess their body, whatever, late late night people, they struggle in the mornings, but they are more active in the nights. Uh, maybe some people are just like that, so maybe it cannot change. But most of people, is all about discipline. If you have more discipline and you try to go a little early and you try to get in the morning, uh, that is what the Buddhas mentions and all the teachers, that is their advice. The early morning, your mind is more fresh and the best. They say that is best for the meditations, the early ones, before all the distractions, noise started to come. Early morning is very quiet. The earlier you get, the more quieter it is, even in a busy place. And then later, it started to become more and more busy. You started to hear more car, more people, more birds, more animals. And so not only is more quieter the earlier, and also is normally your mind is more fresh and more clear, you know. But as I mentioned, some people, if they find struggle, then that is something else. Then they cannot force themselves. If that is how they, sometimes your body and it might be slightly different. Otherwise, that is, all my, His Holiness Dalai Lama, always get up around 3:34 all the time. Most of my teachers, they got up 4:30, all of them, very early. And that's where they start their practice. And again, it all part of their discipline, with all that kind of, they are able to do because of discipline, that if you, if we, because we didn't put effort and have discipline, then we have more struggles of that. And so normally that is better, you know. Um, so again, like, and then sometimes even though we think we need 7 hours, 8 hours, that's what normally met, or I don't know, or the really science say that or not, to have really. Even though I watched one documentary, I don't know where, but one time I was watching, and it might have been by BBC or some, but it's related with this. You know, they were doing some research on sleep. Putting camera everywhere in the rooms, how people sleep, how much they move, or all of that. And according to that, they say if you have deep sleep, 4 hours is more than enough. If you have really deep, good sleep, and they says if you don't have really good deep sleep, it doesn't matter whether you have long or even you have 9 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, it doesn't make much difference. And they did that, people checking them and that, and then how they function during the daytime, whether that has effect in their functionings, all of that, and so according to that, most of our teachers, you know, they don't have a lot of sleep, like 7, 8 hours. When they studies, they used to study until 11, 12 in the evening, sometime even up to 1, and then they get up in 4, and 5, by 5:36, the puja starts, So many of those monks who study there, they don't have many long hours sleep, like 8 hours all the time, 7 hours. But they seem to function well. But in the West, because of this, I don't know, because this that you need 7 hours, 8 hours sleep, I see people becoming grumpy if they didn't get that much of sleep a lot of time. Because I think it's more in your mind than actually physically. Because you feel I need 7 hours, I need 8 hours, and I couldn't get that 8 hours. I couldn't get that 7 hours. I couldn't get good sleep. So in your mind, you create that, and then that effect. I'm wondering. I'm just wondering. I'm not saying that is the case, but I do wonder that because I see that people being more grumpy when they don't have good sleep or enough sleep in this part of the world more than the other part of the world. Because I think there is no concept of that strong in the past in the other part of the world that you need 7 hours or 8 hours sleep to be healthy or whatever for your good health. So because they don't have that concept, and when they don't have that enough, they don't feel something's bad. It is going to affect your health or something like that. Whereas you have that information and you think that you must have. So anyway, this is just we were talking about the post kind of meditations, and one of those post meditations is the sleep, and how much sleep we need, you know. Um, of course, if you really go into the lamrim and all that, then the hour is very short. But of course, we can have, but I don't think we need like 8 hour, 9 hour really. unless for certain individuals who might have some, health issues, because every body is not exactly same. Some body might require, depending on their health, body, and all of that. But normally, in general speaking, so anyway, so that is one thing. And then also, before we go to the bed, again, trying to, go in the bed with a little bit of contemplation, meditation on subject that you are sleeping. You are meditating. If you are meditating loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta, you try to generate loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta motivation before you go to sleep, so that your sleep become virtuous by the power of that, by the motivation, so that in order to be benefit and help to others, I need to develop those spiritual realizations and achieve high level realizations. In order to achieve that, I need to be continue to practice. To practice, I need to be healthy, and in order to be healthy, to maintain the healthy, I need to sleep. So the sleep is to support to be healthy, and the purpose of being healthy is to practice, and the purpose of practice is to be benefit. So in that way, we relate that, and then if you go to bed, that can be. Same way when you also is advised, before you go to bed, meditating on emptiness can be also helpful and beneficial. When there is emptiness, or it is like eight dissolutions, like when you die, through the eight dissolutions, in the same way as you meditate, when you start to become more and more sleepy, and then, going into the emptiness or clear light mind, and then, on the basis of that, and then meditating. So again, depending on what subjects that you are contemplating, you can try to also integrate that. Okay, so that is a little bit on post meditations or during the off meditation sessions, post meditations. This moment. Okay, so we'll see if we can get in the right time next. According lunch time is 75 minutes. We'll see. Okay, if we can complete it. Otherwise, it can take a little more time. Okay. Changjo semjo rimbo che magye pana ke kyo che yawa nyamba me bai kong le kong tu pewa. And I will take some cautions later. Thank you.